This results in, what is termed the ADHD hobby graveyard, a series of hobbies that you've abandoned because they cease at some point to give you the reward because they're not as, inherently rewarding or interesting, or you've hit a ceiling of some sort with that hobby or interest. In my case, I've written, plus million words and unpublished screenplays and stories, and I would just get hyperfixated on living inside those stories. I wouldn't, seek any beta readers or feedback from the outside. I didn't care about the market, the audience, or the future. I was completely captivated by the world I was building, the story I was telling, and I'd write and write and write, and then I'd polish obsessively, but then I wouldn't share it. And then I'd get to the end of that process. I hadn't sought feedback because I didn't want the interference. I didn't want anyone to interrupt my flow. I wanted to stay in that state. I didn't want any roadblocks. I wanted to just keep hitting that source of dopamine. But by the end of it, I had a very deeply flawed work of fiction that often didn't see the light of day because in the end, I look back and it wasn't really that good, or there was no outlet for it because I hadn't even considered what I was going to do with it. I didn't gauge the market. I didn't see if there was a place for what I was writing, if there would be any interest, and if the writing was competitive with what was out there. I think this is kind of emblematic of ADHDers who get into that hyperfixation state where we experience tunnel vision. We can't see the forest for the trees. And any feedback from the outside feels like a threat to our pure vision. It could, completely capsize this thing we have going, this really good thing we have going for ourselves, and then we just will lose interest. And we're kind of terrified of that, and we also want to keep the state of flow going. So we won't get perspective, and we might burn our time and our energy and effort on something that is probably a waste of time in some cases, that there's no potential to move forward, and that, a day, a week, a month prior, we weren't even interested in. And from the outside, somebody can see that, somebody who knows us really well and can point out to us and help us keep perspective, but we won't see that perspective, and we're just like, let me secretly do this thing, and it can become my secret infatuation for this period of time, and I won't speak too much about it to other people. Sometimes we do, but that secrecy or that lack of seeking feedback can kind of hamstring us with our passion because, again, we might kind of lose perspective and sink a lot of money and time and effort into something that might not last. And some of these hobbies do last. That's the risk reward here, right? Like it might end up in the hobby graveyard, and it might become an enduring sense of passion and engagement and novelty for us and give us endless amounts of reward.